Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajdanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajdanarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Vihari. निताय गो प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiriyet. Shravtam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashta Praisha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be covering Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 6th Canto, Chapter 17. Mother Pārvatī curses Citraketu. And the title is, as it says, curses, but it's a blessing in disguise. Hare Krishna. So as is the custom, we'll cover the very first verse. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 17, verse 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Yataschantarhito Anantas Tasya Kritva Dishe Namaha Vidyadharas Citraketush Chachara Gagane Charaha Śrīshuka uvaca Yataschantarahito anantas Tasya kritva dishe namaha Vidyadharas Citraketush Chachara gagane charaha Śrīshuka uvaca Yatantascharahito anantas Tasya kritva dishe namaha Vidyadharas Citraketush Chachara gagane charaha. Okay. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukdev Goswami said, Yataha, in which direction? Cha and Antarhitaha disappeared. Anantaha, the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tasyai, unto that, Kritva, after offering, Dishe, direction, Namaha, obeisances, Vidyadharaha, the king of the Vidyadhara planet. Citraketu, Chachara, traveled, Gagane, in outer space, Charaha, moving. Translation by His Divine Grace S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Shukdev Goswami said, after offering obeisances to the direction from which Ananta, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had disappeared, Citraketu began traveling in outer space as the head of the Vidyadharas. There is no purport to this verse, so we'll continue with the next two translations. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 6th Canto, Chapter 17, verse 2 and 3 translation by His Divine Grace S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Being praised by great sages and saints, and by the inhabitants of Siddhyaloka and Charanaloka, Citraketu, the most powerful mystic yogi, wandered about enjoying life for millions of years. With bodily strength and senses free from deterioration, he traveled within the valleys of Sumeru mountain, which is the place of perfection for various kinds of mystic power. In those valleys, he enjoyed life with the women of Vidyadhara Lok, by chanting the glories of the Supreme Lord Hari. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatadham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, Shukdev Goswami is narrating Citraketu's life to Parikshit Maharaj. After he inquired, when he heard that Vritrasur was able to, even though born as a demon, he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. And in the previous few chapters, we heard how Citraketu, as the king of Surasena, he was the king of the planet of the earth, but situated in Surasena as a capital. He had 1 million wives, and he did not have a son. Unfortunately, all of them were barren. And he did get a son by the blessing of Angira Rishi, but then that son died, untimely. And so he was lamenting, and at that time, Narad Rishi with Angira, they appeared as Avadhuta, in different forms, like just like careless persons traveling, and carefree persons traveling. Sorry, big difference we discussed in the previous classes between careless and carefree. So devotees are carefree, while ignorants are careless. There is a big difference between the two. like a sky and earth. And at that time he was enlightened, and having enlightened by Devashi Narad, he was initiated. And later on, he chanted the mantras, and within a week he was able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And after Lord Anantashesh, who appeared in front of him, he was as white as snow, so very white, like the strands of lotus stem. Excuse me. And when he recited the prayers, Lord responded. So his prayers were very much like, you're the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world, and you appear in various forms, to sustain us, and so forth. Then Anantashesh responded that, engage in my devotional service. I'm summarizing. So, and you will definitely, surely come back to me. Come back home, back to Godhead. And here, after Anantashesh left, this is where this verse picks up, this chapter, that Citraketu, who is the king of Vidyadhar planet, because of the potency of the chanting of the mantras, he was able to get, as an intermediate benefit, the ruling of Vidyadhar planet. And so as a king of Vidyadhar planet, he was traveling around in his plane, right? So there is a plane is being narrated in this. It was given to him by Lord Vishnu himself. And he was traveling in this airplane freely. And he was in the vicinity of the valleys of the Sumeru mountain. And there he was in the association of, great sages? Was he in the association of his spiritual master? He was in the association of the women of Vidyadhar planet. Right? Yet at the same time, he was engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord. So sometimes people, when they hear, they are reminded of 7th Canto, 15th chapter, where Devashi Narad reveals that before being a maidservant boy, son, he was a Gandharva. But there is a big difference, and we'll be covering that in this chapter as well, between those two personalities and those two roles. Hare Krishna. So in this chapter, I'm able to derive 8 lessons, and I'll quickly narrate the lessons, and then we'll go through them one by one. So, association and actions, they matter. Association influences you. That's the first lesson. And how the association of the various women from Vidyadhar planets, who were always giving company to King Citraketu, and at the same time being the king of Vidyadhar planet, being in that position consciousness, right? So when we associate with the body, Srila Prabhupada explained to us, is how sometimes we are thinking, I'm an American, I'm an Indian, I'm so-and-so, I'm a master's in science in computer science, or I'm a doctor, and I'm an engineer, or I'm a so-and-so personality. So these are all different kind of upadhis. And this is also an association, right, with the body. You're associating with material things. And that can very well become the cause of illusion. So association matters, and actions, when we associate with the body, or things associated with the body, they influence us. Second is, when somebody does bad to us, we become, we start getting this negative feeling, while not realizing that actually they're just the messenger of our past karmas. They're just bringing back those reactions. And we should be grateful. So don't kill the messenger, or don't be upset at the messenger of your past karmas. Understand that they are actually helping you nullify those karmas, the reactions of those karmas. Third lesson is, this material world is a place of misery, right? So when you are associating with this material world, with the bodily conception of, life, associating that I am this body and all in all, then the only thing you get in this material world is dukhalayam ashashvatam. All you get is misery, and everything that happens is temporary. So even misery is temporary, but then another one keeps coming. And sometimes they are even disguised as happiness, but actually they are miseries. We just fail to recognize it. While for a devotee, the same material world becomes part of the spiritual world. And he sees Lord Krishna everywhere. And that's why devotees, when they are very happily chanting and dancing, right? Just by raising their hand and chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. So they are constantly chanting, and they are glorifying the Lord. And what was King Citraketu doing? Even though he had the association of women, he remembered the instructions of his spiritual master Devashi Narad and Anantashesh, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he was constantly chanting the glories of the Lord. So for devotees, everything is blissful, and everything that happens to them, they take it as mercy of the Lord. Fourth lesson is that judge is not responsible for rulings. So devotees, they are equanimous to everyone. Just like government, right? They set up various rules and regulations in which the citizens live happily. Now if someone violates those rules, they are punished. That's not the fault of government. That's the fault of the person, the citizen, who is not following the ruling. So again, government is not to be blamed. Similarly, there is a question raised sometimes that why did Krishna create this material world if it is Dukhalayamana Shashvatam? And Srila Prabhupada's response on this particular question was that Krishna didn't create this material world. It is the living entity, the conditioned beings, who have created it. And then another devotee asked, okay, so if Krishna did not create it, how can it become Vaikuntha? And Srila Prabhupada's response was, just 2% of the population, if they become Krishna conscious, this planet will become Vaikuntha. No miseries. Kuntha means miseries. Vai is devoid of, a place which is devoid of all miseries. So 98% may stay in their conditioned state, but if 2% of the population can become Krishna conscious, then this planet and this material world means again can become Vaikuntha, devoid of any miseries altogether. Yet at the same time, one should not think that the government is to be, wrong, or Lord Krishna is wrong if something bad happens. It's because of the reactions of our past karmas that come back to us. Lesson 5 is to understand what offense is. And if we have offended someone, then we should understand, our offenses and beg for forgiveness. Without regard to the positions, place, we should simply, bow down. And this is exemplified by King Citraketu, as we will cover later. And lesson 6 is, there is a constant battle going on, right? In your mind, in your intelligence, among different living entities. And it all started with the battle of sages. Right? They started having so many questions. So sometimes even sages, they have conflicts. And those conflicts are again because of simple misunderstandings. Yet at the same time, if you see these battles, they come from the spiritual world, they're just perverted reflection. In spiritual world, when Krishna, he looks at a devotee and she's very old, he's like, oh, you are so old and ugly, who will marry you? And she immediately looks back at Krishna and says, oh, I will marry you, Krishna. And all the gopis, they start clapping and laughing. Yes, Krishna, you should marry her. So even simple talk, which could appear like a debate or a conflict, is so mellow, it's so blissful that everyone relishes. So the nature in the spiritual world is sweet, in the material world it's bitter. That's the difference. But then, it's a perverted reflection of those wonderful pastimes. We know about how Radharani and Krishna, they have so many wonderful pastimes, happenings, and so many other events that happen in the spiritual world, and they are all very mellow, very blissful. And the devotees, they laugh and they smile and they relish those sweet pastimes. Lesson number 7 is devotional service is never lost. So even though King Citraketu is cursed and he takes birth as Vritrasur, as Shukdev Goswami is explaining to Maharaj Parikshit, his devotional service is preserved and he is able to go back home, back to Godhead. And that we already covered when Vritrasur was battling with the demigods. How he meditated on the Supreme Personality of Godhead after he had engulfed King Indra and thought that, okay, he has completed all his duties towards his brother Vishwarupa, and he went into meditation at the lotus feet of Anantashesh and left, to go back home, back to Godhead. And lesson number 8 is a very instructive lesson for us, where mind is just a media in both wakefulness, dream, or deep sleep. And these three are actually, as we also covered in Canto 7, when Prahlad Maharaj was referring to these three factors. These are energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they create different objects. So even when we are awake, we see different objects. So Srila Prabhupada told us, yes, so they are there, but they are temporary in nature. So that's their impermanent feature is what makes them not so absolute. But anything that's associated with the Lord is absolute. So mind is always using sankalpa and vikalpa, acceptance and rejection. That's the business of the mind. It's called manodharma. That's the constitutional position of the mind. What is the constitutional position of the mind? To accept and to reject. Simply doing that. That's mental concoction. And what's the constitutional position of living entity? Jivera Sarup Hoya Kishnera Nityadas. So now we, in this body itself, are finding two personalities who are contradictory in nature. However, if we are able to subdue this strong mind and engage in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the same mind, who's our dire enemy, becomes our very best friend and can help us go back home, back to Godhead. And now that's a great deal, right? You are just using something that's temporary in nature, mind, which is temporary in nature, impermanent, to get back to the absolute platform, back home, back to Godhead. Where can you find that great deal? Because you can't even compare. It's like 100% discount and more. Hare Krishna. So let's start with the individual lessons. Narad Rishi, in his previous birth, we know when in the first canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it's referred that he was born as a son of the maidservant. And in that life, he had the association of the Vaishnavas, great Vaishnavas, and during the Chaturmasya, the rainy season, he was able to. But now somebody can ask the question, how was he born as a son of maidservant? What caused him? So Devashi Narad reveals to Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas in the 7th canto that actually he was a resident of Gandharva Loka. He was a Gandharva. And his name was Upabarhana. And he was, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport very nicely elaborate that he liked the association of women and he was like a playboy. He had very attractive features and he has very beautiful, features. He was very handsome. So, and he knew how to decorate himself very nicely to attract women. And he was in the association of women, and once he was invited to a Sankirtan party. And that's where he started chanting the glories of the demigods. Because he was in the company of women, he forgot that everyone is singing the glories of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he started chanting the glories of the demigods. And that's when the Prajapatis, the chief demigods, they became upset. And they cursed him that because you are so lost in this bodily conception of life and you are singing, glories of the demigods, you should fall down, become a Shudra. And that's why he was born as the son of maidservant. However, because of his past devotion service, he got the association of great saintly persons. And he was quickly able to achieve the Lord. Now here, Citraketu is also having the association with women from Vidyadhar planet. And he is in the Sumeru mountain valleys. So he is in the valleys in the Sumeru mountain. What's the potency of Sumeru mountain? The valley is the place. That is the perfect place for learning and growing your mystic power. So he had become very powerful because of all the mystic power he had gathered. And being a king of Vidyadhar planet, he was perfect in knowledge. Vidya means knowledge. That he had his body, none of the senses were deteriorating. And he was engaging for millions of years in chanting of the holy name. Right? He was singing the glories of the Lord. So he had not forgotten the Lord, even after millions of years. Sometimes I meet some of the devotees and some of the folks who are visiting. They're like, when I'm in the temple, it's completely blissful. But as soon as I walk outside the temple, something happens to me. I forget everything. Right? And get engaged with all the material activities that are there. So that is conditioning. Because we are so much in conditioning with this material world, it happens to us. And actually, one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples asked him, Srila Prabhupada, why do sometimes we forget Krishna and, we engage so much in this material world doing all these mundane activities? So Srila Prabhupada rebuked. Srila Prabhupada was very, strong in his conviction. And he said, it is sometimes you are in Krishna consciousness, most of the time you are in material consciousness. And that is our sorry state. That, sometimes when we are chanting the glories of the Lord, when we are chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we are in Krishna consciousness. We are feeling the bliss. We are facing the sun and we are in sunlight. And as soon as we are engaged in mundane activities, we have turned our back to the sun. We have turned our back to the Lordship. And we are looking at all this darkness and wondering, how come we are seeing all these shadows? So the analogy is, when you're facing the sun, you cannot see anything dark because, in the presence of sun, nothing dark can exist. So when you are engaged in the service of Lord Shri Krishna, no misery can affect you. It's only in your mental concoction when you are facing, sometimes we are also facing him thinking that we are facing him, but actually your back is towards him. We just know that he is present. His presence, Abhas is there. And then we are seeing these miseries, right? So when you turn our back to the sun, we see our shadow. And that is the material world, the material consciousness that's there. And it is very clearly stated in Chaitanya Madhya Leela also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing, and there it is given, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. So Krishna Bhakta Nishkama. Nishkama means who does not have any desire when engaged in endeavor. It also means who doesn't do any endeavor, but we have to look at the context. In our scriptures, this is why Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami are saying that you should listen Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from devotees, bona fide devotees, who are in disciplic succession, because there can be many different literal meanings to the same word. But a devotee would be able to reveal to you the truth as it is. So Nishkama here means one who is engaged in serving the Lord without having any desire in return. He is not considering his service to be a trade. He is only desiring the pleasure of the Lord. Ateva, that's why, what is his state? Shanta. That's why he is peaceful. Just like Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Shochati Na Kankshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma. A person, a living entity who is at the stage of Brahman. He is Prasannatma. He is always rejoicing. He is always happy. Na shochati, na kankshati. Who does not lament. And why do you lament sometimes? Because of your past activities. Something that happened in the past. Na kankshati. or who does not aspire for something in the future. So a person who's at the Brahmabhuta stage is at the present moment, now, right? Is not looking at the future to get something, or is not lamenting for the past to have not received something that he was thinking desirable. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati sama sarveshu bhuteshu, and is equally disposed towards all living entities. Right? So he considers all that surrounding him, the living entities all around, and he gives them equal respect, looking at him. Mad bhakti lapate param, and engages in my devotional service. So that is the state where Krishna Bhakta constantly endeavor without having any desire, not looking at it as a trait, only seeking the pleasure of the Lordship, the pleasure of the Vaishnavas, the pleasure of the devotees. And that's why he's very peaceful and actually happy inside, constantly blissful. Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakali, Ashanta. Bhukti is the one who is trying to enjoy this material world. Mukti is the one who is trying to attain liberation. So this is referring to the Jnanis who are trying to merge into Brahman, that level of liberation. Siddhi, the one who is looking after mystic power. And then Kami is one who is lustful. They are Sakali, they are very easily disturbed. And in the Kali age, of course, Manda Sumanda Matyo, Manda Bhagya Prudataha. People are lazy, they are less intelligent, and on top of that, they are unlucky and always disturbed. That's the nature of this material world in this Kali age. So here, King Citraketu, in the association of Vidyadhara women, he is wandering in the valleys of Sumeru mountain, enjoying for millions of years, chanting the glories of the Lordship. And as given in the purport, such a person, a pure devotee, engaged in chanting the glories of the Lord should be understood to be perfect. So we just understood the difference between, the birth of Devashi Narad as Gandharva, where he was in a lustful state, while King Citraketu, even though he had the association of women, he was remembering the glories of the Lordship. Now, while wandering, he just happened to come along a gathering in the assembly where Lord Shiva was conversing with the sages. So he was mainly conversing, so he was on a pedestal. And on his lap, who is sitting? Pārvatī. Right? Pārvatī is, the name comes from Parvat. Right? So, the daughter of Parvat. That's how it comes, Pārvatī. And she is sitting, and Lord Shiva is embracing her with one arm while conversing with the sages on the other hand. And when King Citraketu, he sees that, he is amazed. And then he starts chastising the Lord. So he is on his plane, and he is speaking so loudly that Mother Pārvatī is able to hear him. Gauranga Prabhu covers the family of Lord Shiva, as how there is a unity in diversity. Goddess Durga, she is, her carrier is tiger, while Lord Shiva's carrier is Nandi, bull. Right? Bull is generally a food for tiger. And similarly, Lord Ganesh, his carrier is mouse. And Kartikeya, his brother, his carrier is peacock. And they are also enemies. But there is perfect unity in diversity. And King Citraketu, when he sees Lord Shiva sitting and conversing with the sages, while at the same time embracing his wife, he starts, chastising, but with glorification. First, he clearly identifies, and there are three different stages in this particular chapter, is specified. he is identifying that Lord Shiva is the greatest of all personalities and is the Lord of all living entities who have taken to this material body as all in all. So all the materialists, for them, Lord Shiva is worshipable. Yet at the same time, it is so strange that he is embracing Pārvatī in the company of sages, in front of these great sages who are gathered there. So he is not insulting Lord Shiva, yes, at the same time his words are harsh to hear. Then he says, oh Lord Shiva, he's wearing matted locks and he's a great ascetic, right? Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu. Of all the Vaishnavas, the topmost Vaishnava is Lord Shiva. And he has definitely performed amazing austerities and is very dear to the Lord, yet at the same time it is amazing, it is astonishing and amazing that he is embracing, Mother Pārvatī in the front, in the company of all these sages. And King Citraketu, as Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, his intention is that Lord Shiva's this action may be misinterpreted by a materialist. Shishi Gauranitai ki jai. Shishi Radha Madan Mohan ki jai. Shishi Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anant Koti Vaishnavind ki jai. Nitai Go Premanande. Hari Hari Go. So in Bhagavad Gita it is given, means when Lord Krishna, he reveals to Arjuna that there is no work, prescribed for him, for Lord Krishna. Yet at the same time, he carries out his duties perfectly. That's why the Lord is also known by the name Achyuta, one who never falls down. He reveals that yad yad acharitis sheshthas taddad evetaro janaha sayat paramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So the intention of Citraketu was not to insult Lord Shiva, but try to remind him that his actions may be taken by a common man, and they may follow this. And Srila Prabhupada says that in this Kali age, the Shudras have this open freedom to do such actions, while Brahmanas, Vaishyas and Kshatriyas, they don't engage in such activities. Only Shudras engage in these activities, kind of activities. And Citraketu in his third instance, when giving the example, he is saying that a common person would embrace with his wife in a secluded place. But how astonishing it is that Lord Shiva is embracing Mother Pārvatī in front of all these sages, in the company of all these sages, so openly. Right? So he is even falling down, as someone would hear, they may think that he is criticizing that Lord Shiva has even given away the injunctions that's even for a common man. So at the same time, his intentions are important, right? We are so much looking at the impact we are having, or not really looking at the intention of the speaker. And that's exactly what happened to Mother Pārvatī. She gets impacted. Without understanding the intention of King Citraketu, she becomes angry. And being upset and angry at him, she says that Lord Shiva is his most worshipable personality. Even Lord Brahma, who is born of the lotus flower, right? Coming from the Padmanabha Vishnu, from his navel. And the Chatukumaras, or Devashi Narad, and so many other great sages, headed by Bhrigu Muni, they have never stopped him. Yet at this instance, this King Citraketu, she calls him an upstart and the most fallen one. So, he thinks himself better than Lord Shiva. And he is, who has given him the authority to punish fallen people like us. So she is actually at the same time being critical towards him as well. And at that time, she curses him, that such a person is not to attain the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and may he be born as a Shudra, or as a demon because of his actions. Because his words are so unpleasing and is criticizing Lord Shiva, that he be born as demon. And hearing this curse, the whole assembly, right? Everyone would be shocked. Like this is a battle of sages. And there's some bitterness appearing now. And at this time, King Citraketu, he immediately gets down from his plane, comes in front of Lord Shiva and Pārvatī with folded hands. And he says, with my folded hands, I bow down to you and I accept this curse. Now later in the same chapter, Shukdev Goswami revealed, and Srila Prabhupada in his purport elaborated, that this King Citraketu had enough power to curse Goddess Pārvatī back, but he didn't do so. And that's an example of Vaishnava behavior. That's an exemplary Vaishnava behavior that is highly appreciated. That Vaishnavas, they don't just tit for tat. They don't do that. They're very humble in their nature. They understand that this is coming their way because of the reactions of their karmas. And that's what King Citraketu reveals. That you are not to be blamed, nor I am to be blamed. What has come my way as a curse is actually reactions of my previous deeds. And we have to understand that not a leaf moves without the God's will. So again, from that particular perspective, he is elaborately explaining, and Lord Shiva as well as Mother Pārvatī, they are surprised. Because when King Citraketu had chastised, Lord Shiva had just smiled and stayed silent. So did the sages, they didn't say anything. But the Mother Pārvatī cursed him. And to that curse, he did not do a counter curse. He simply bowed down to her and accepted that curse. Now when Parikshit Maharaj is hearing this, and he is of course reminded that how Shamika Rishi's son Shringi had cursed him for the 7 days, right? That this king will die in 7 days. He is also understanding at the same level. It's very pleasing, right? And that he has been given this benediction, that he is hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And that's why when we talk about who attained perfection by Shravanam, whose name comes? Parikshit Maharaj. So here, King Citraketu, the king of Vidyadhar planet, he is bowing down and saying, you are not at fault, mother, and I am not at fault. However, if you think what I have said is truth, however, if you think anything that I have said is wrong, please let that be pardoned. So he did become the judge of what the offense is. He let her be the judge. That whatever you think is wrong, let that be pardoned. And he simply paid obeisances and he left in his plane. And as he left, Lord Shiva and Pārvatī, they are surprised at this incident. Yet at the same time, Lord Shiva smiles. And thereafter, Lord Shiva in the company of sages, where Devashi Narad is also present, even demons are present. He is telling Mother Pārvatī that how glorious are the Vaishnavas. This King Citraketu, he is very dear to the Lord. And I am also very dear to the Lord. And the purpose, Srila Prabhupada says, that the devotees of the Lord, they have this friendly joking sometimes among, towards each other. They say, you are so and so, just pointing out some of the incidents, and the other person may say the same thing. But that's a very melodious, exchange of words, and in a joking way, jokingly. So here, King Citraketu, he is saying, is also very dear to the Lord, just like I am very dear to the Lord. And he is revealing to her indirectly that her cursing was not justified. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada reveals that at that point, Mother Pārvatī, she covers her face because she was feeling shamed, right? When you feel corrected, I know someone who says that sometimes when they feel, where to go, as if this earth would split and they would just hide in there. Sometimes that kind of feeling comes, So she immediately covered her face because she was feeling ashamed. And here, another battle of sages happens. So now there is a blessing. The blessing is one who rises from bed early in the morning and recites this history of King Citraketu, controlling his words and mind, and remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will return home back to Godhead without difficulty. Now what got my attention was without difficulty. Now to go back home without difficulty, you'll have to take little difficulty, which is getting up early in the morning and recite this history of King Citraketu. As how he was, born as a king, how he was cursed, and then he became Vritrasur, and how he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. So whoever takes on that little difficulty would be able to go back home without difficulty. Another great deal right there. Now, from this complete incidence of Vritrasur's story as well as King Citraketu's, I'm able to derive overall lessons. And there are 6 in number. Where first lesson is the preachers, they never ridicule. Like Angira Rishi as well as Devashi Narad, they were very compassionate towards the king, and they gave him proper instructions and helped him till he was ready to take to chanting and glorifying the Lordship and engage in his devotional service. Second was that he was instructed when he was awakened. And there is a very nice example my godbrother Vidupriya Prabhu gives. He says that when you are in a battlefield, right, when you are fighting, and you have 2 of your soldiers, they are injured. One is gravely injured, he's going to die, very quickly. Another one is little injured, and he can be saved as well. Which one would you try to save first? The one who is heavily injured or one who is less injured? Simple example is the one who is less injured. Because if you're trying to save the one who is gravely injured, by the time you take him back, he could very well die on his way as well as, on the way back, when he goes back. While the one who is less injured has a higher possibility of being saved. So personality means when we have different people we are trying to preach to, at that time we should see who already has some developed faith. Because it is very easy to preach to a person who has some faith versus who is agnostic towards Lordship. So that's what they were doing. And when they saw that King Citraketu has understood the difference that I am not this body, I am the spirit soul, and is anxious to understand what is the purpose of this life, then they instructed him. That's the second lesson. And then the third one is, a spiritual master will test you again and again, and then initiate you. Right? Srila Prabhupada, he waited for 11 years before getting initiated. So his first meeting, he got the instruction from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that you should translate this literature in English and preach to the Western world. In the very first meeting, he got that instruction. But it was 11 years after that he got initiated. And why does the spiritual master test you is also very interesting. When Srila Prabhupada gave the story of veterinarian, where his apprentice was not so much following the instructions and was causing havoc. We'll cover that story because of the time. And another lesson is we are in a proper consciousness when we are not associating with the body. So that was given when Devashi Narad made that spirit soul appear to everyone's eyes. He didn't. Sometimes this story is misunderstood, where people say, oh, that the prince, Harshoka, was brought back to life. The prince was not brought back to life. He was given an option. The living entity was made visible. The body was still dead and lying there. And the questions were asked of the body that, your parents are lamenting, so you could enter into your body back and enjoy this kingdom. And at that time, the living entity being not in the association of material energy, was outside the influence, was able to reveal to King Citraketu that as a living entity has no father and mother, means no material father and mother, is, just a living entity, Jivera Sarupa Krishna Nityadas, an eternal servant of the Lordship. And so King Citraketu and the queens, they were able to dissociate and understand we are not this body, but the spirit soul. And intermediate results may give us some position. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam yat paratvena nirmanam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. So by giving up all kind of positions, one should engage in Lord Krishna's service as he desires, for his pleasure. So that's a lesson, because sometimes by having different positions and by getting different titles, they can very well become the cause of our pride. And pride causes fall, we know that. So, it can become cause of a fall. Why fall down? Why take that risk? Simply understand that we are the living entity and we should engage in chanting of the holy name and serving the Lordship with love and devotion. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments? Canto Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Kori Vaishnava ki jai, Nitai Go Premanande, Hare Hare Bo.
Shri Radha Madhan ki jai. Shri Gauranga ki jai. This is Darshan from ISKCON of DC. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai.